What does freedom mean? Is it living alone with no one to tell you what to do? No spouse, no parent, no boss, no government, no society? And if you live the free, isolated life, how much does that cost? Freedom isn't free, right? It costs money to live anywhere. And if you don't have a boss, then where did you get that money? Is freedom an economic privilege? In the 1980s, Texas Democratic Representative Charlie Wilson wanted freedom for the people of Afghanistan. Through the CIA, he helped fund and arm their war against the Soviet Union. Specifically, he helped train the Mujahideen to fight the communist invasion of 1979. This is the same Mujahideen that the Americans would have to deal with in 20 This is the same Mujahideen that the Americans would have to deal with in 2003 when George W. Bush directed a war in Afghanistan as part of a war on terror. But in the 1980s, Charlie Wilson preached freedom for the Afghani people. Their struggle was our struggle because freedom is so vitally important. Which brings me back to the original question. What is freedom? Well, to Charlie Wilson and all of conservative America in the 1980s, freedom was anything that wasn't communism. Americans love to conflate democracy with freedom. We love to conflate guns with freedom. We love to conflate the desert with freedom. Where else but the desert can you be truly alone, free from rule, free from bosses and spouses and society and authoritarian rule? The desert landscape of Afghanistan so perfectly encapsulates the desert landscape of Afghanistan so perfectly encapsulates an American ideal of freedom. So it's no mistake that Bert and Heather in the 1990 monster flick Tremors drive a Chevy Blazer with a bumper sticker that reads Free Afghanistan, a Chevy Blazer that lives the free desert life of the American Southwest. Distant, off grid, and armed to the teeth, they understand freedom. If any communists come down here, these folks are prepared. Needless to say, it's a huge disappointment when the biggest threat in this new era isn't actually World War III, but the Earth itself. Hi, Cecil.
Hi, Jeffrey.
What's in your end of the world bunker?
Oh, well, I mean the basics. You got to have your food and water,
Yeah, of course. And your
some
generator.
medicine.
Yeah.
Um, I don't, let's see. I got to imagine there's electricity, so
Yeah.
I don't know, like some sort of VHS video, DVD, something or other to keep yourself entertained.
Yeah,
Um,
are you bringing video games? You bringing books? You bringing
oh yeah, books definitely. You
mm-hmm.
got to have your desert island discs.
Mm-hmm.
Some sort of like record player, I
Yeah.
suppose.
Yeah.
Because I don't know, I'm assuming if it's, there's no internet, so you can't, Spotify is not working in the apocalyptic wasteland
You
of this
can't bring your
scenario.
Spotify playlist with you to your bunker.
You're just worming around your bunker trying to get a signal,
Yeah.
just square feet. Um, let's see, a little bit of porn,
Sure.
just to keep things spicy. What else? Yeah, that sounds about it.
Yeah.
Maybe a plant or two.
Yeah. Yeah, my first thought was bringing like some type of video game system could be fun just to kind of pass the time. But I think books are the way to go, right? Because there's so many great books that you can have, like your classics that you could probably read and reread a few times.
Yeah.
And you can get a lot down there. You can get a lot
Oh,
of
yeah.
books down there. And I have so many books that I'm trying to figure out where they all go. That if I had an end of the world bunker, I absolutely that's where a lot of these books would go, just to
That's
make
it.
room.
Really, your underground bunker into the world bunker is just additional storage for your
That's right.
non-end of the world real life.
That's right. It's my extra space storage unit is my end of the
Hmm.
world bunker. Uh, all right. So we've both seen this movie before.
Yes.
I would say it has been since the 1990s that I have watched this film. Would that be the same for you?
It's pretty close.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a lot about this movie I remember vividly, and there's a lot about this movie I have forgotten entirely. I sort of addressed a little bit of that in my intro of just thinking about the politics
Sure.
of preppers and
Oh,
gun
yeah.
enthusiasts
Oh, yeah.
in the characters played by Reba McEntire and Michael Gross. That yeah, I'd forgotten that part of this storyline entirely. And that free Afghanistan bumper sticker really threw me for like a tangent. Like I was like, I'm sorry, pause.
You're like,
Had
wait, what do we
forgotten
have on it? What's going on here?
I had forgotten this sort of movement, but we've done this throughout America's history, which I mean,
Yeah,
from the beginning, it was like free France. You know what I mean? Like there's
yeah,
this like there's sort of a sense of we have to free all of the people because we freed ourselves and made a free
yes,
democratic country that
yes,
everyone is equal and on solid footing and democracy totally works. And if everyone had that, we'd be great.
yeah.
And
And of
it's
course, we do
yeah,
we do love being the police force of the world.
yeah, that's right. We're the
We're like, look to us. We're doing everything perfect,
hmm
right?
look
Right?
at that's right.
Right?
But yeah, I had forgotten about the movement for freeing Afghanistan by arming them to the teeth. And
Yeah.
then we're only, I think by my reading of this 1990 film for this couple to have a free Afghanistan bumper sticker, I think by 1990, I don't think the conflict was over in 1990 between Afghanistan and the USSR, but it was near the end. So it
It was
actually is really interesting to see it as like kind of a choice by the director to say like, oh, they have these kind of like older ideas of what's really popular.
it makes sense because
Hmm
living off the grid out in the desert. So, and I'll also like this happens to me all the time where you see someone driving around with a bumper sticker from like 2 elections ago.
Yep.
You're like, oh, wow, okay, I guess, yeah, just leave that up there. Don't
Yeah.
worry.
And you're like Gore Lieberman. Wow,
Yeah, I know
you've gotten some
exactly. Yeah,
mileage out of that Civic.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Uh, yeah. I don't know. Were there any big surprises for you in rewatching this movie?
The only surprise for me was how much I remembered of this movie
Hmm
because this movie, I think, hit at a time when cable, God, I feel like this movie, along with Saved by the Bell, would have been on cable TV. Ooh, goodness. This movie would have been on cable television like every third weekend
Yeah.
in the 90s.
Yeah.
And it was also a VHS like blockbuster rental kind of hit. Like this movie wasn't very popular financially. It did not was not a blockbuster hit when it came out, but this movie kind of became this 90s cult classic. And in watching this, I'm reminded why, because for the most part, this is a perfect movie to put on in front of your kids.
hmm
This is a total slumber party. I don't know. They're like middle school and up. There's a little bit of spicy language, but it's a lot of mother trucker, you
Yeah.
know, but, like nobody gets torn limb from limb. The violence is always very it's not overt, it's not in your face, it's a little more suspenseful. The actual deaths that we do see are kind of they are still and dead. They are discovered a dead body in the desert on the high wire kind of thing, but it's not like you're watching the graboids just like
Yes.
rip actors apart.
Yes. No, it does not go hard into the gore at all. It goes into the gross, but more of
Yeah,
like when the monsters or when the graboids are killed,
yeah.
there's usually some like spaghettios thrown against the wall.
Or like orange spaghetti, very
Yeah, that
orange these
that
things are.
yeah, it's like vodka sauce.
Oh my
So
God.
yeah.
Uh,
Uh
but it was a very, for that reason, it would, it's not overtly sexual. It's a very American movie.
uh-huh.
And I think it really does kind of intertwine with the fact that Americans love violence.
Yeah.
They're like, it's about, just a group of people trying to survive on the land against this natural beast that's
Yeah.
undermining their community. What's more American than that? You're
Yeah.
having a church lock-in or a gymboree slumber party. Here you go. Just put on Tremors. And for that reason, so many scenes of this movie were like emblazoned in my brain.
Yeah.
So even though it's like a decade and a half later that I have not seen this movie, I was like, yep, yeah, okay. Like even before we sat down, I was like, I could probably tell you who dies and who lives.
Yeah.
by the end of this movie, just from my hazy, you know, tween teen remembrance of this film.
Yeah. It has that kind of it's a very 80s concept movie. It's very aspirational.
Yeah.
That, we can defeat it with guns, we can defeat
Yeah.
it with cleverness and firepower.
Yes.
And it's very Die Hard in that way. And then above Die Hard, it's got this aspirational notion that honestly, as Americans, if we all just work together, we could
That's it.
defeat anything.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the opposite. Die Hard is one man needs to be our hero.
Sure.
And this is a community movie rather than a superhero movie.
It
Uh,
reminded me a lot of Red Dawn in a lot of ways.
yeah, yeah. It kind of has that vibe to it. It's very PG-13,
Hmm.
easy to show, super accessible horror film, more just like a sci-fi action in the desert
Yeah.
sort of thing. And also just the overacting in this movie is delectable. It
Oh,
is.
it's so good.
It's a good thing that the scenery is enormous because there's a lot of it to chew.
Uh-huh. There's a lot of scenery to chew. It's also the I don't know. I have to say, upon watching this, I really love the camera angles are really like half the fun of this movie.
The
Like
killer cam, like low to the ground.
like
Yeah.
low to the ground, and then it's shot from like, like we're underneath the ground. Now we're really far back so we can see the beautiful Western scenery. Now we're like up close and it's all very personal. It just seems it seemed like it was a lot of fun to make.
Yeah. Also, we are experiencing peak Kevin Bacon right here. Like this is I mean, I'm objectifying him, but like this is the cutest Kevin Bacon has ever looked. He looks
Oh
great.
yeah.
He's this sleeveless denim that he's got in the opening scene,
Yeah.
impeccable. He's fantastic. And Fred Ward looks
Oh my God.
amazing.
Fred Ward is so sexy in this movie. I mean, like
Uh-huh.
Kevin Bacon, great. And I know he's the love interest, but Fred Ward,
Mm-hmm.
Silver Daddy.
This is kind of a glow up because like Fred Ward, I remember the first thing I remember Fred Ward in is The Right Stuff because he plays Gus
Okay.
Grissom
Yeah.
in The Right Stuff. And I didn't think anything. He felt very like average guy in that movie. You know what I mean? Like that was kind of Gus's arc was always kind of feeling second tier to the alphas
Yeah.
of Ed Harris, I think plays Neil Armstrong? No, the other John Glenn, I think, is who he plays. Like the super stud men of
Yeah.
of Ed Harris, and then you've got Gus Grissom, who's just like average guy. And here I'm like, oh, he looks amazing. He looks so good.
He looks so good. It's that haircut. Honestly,
Yeah,
that haircut is tight. That
he's
hair, I
got
was
the
like, oh,
yeah, he's got the
oh.
silver fox thing with the streaks and the beard and the hair. Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah. All right, well, these are our main two characters here is Kevin Bacon and Fred Ward playing respectively Val and Earl. Earl Bassett, incredible naming.
Yes.
Um so Fred and Earl, they are handymen who work in Perfection, Nevada, population 14.
I love it. I kind of missed the time when we had actually put the population on signs. I think a lot of places still do. They must.
Uh-huh.
But I love this idea in a horror movie, especially because it's like right from the outset. And this movie teases out what that it's a monster movie. So there's a bit of a half-hearted mystery. But I
Uh-huh.
love the idea that they're like, okay, there's 14 people. Who's gonna make it out of perfection?
Uh-huh.
Count them off with me now. This one, this one, this one, this one.
And they're out like we just see them doing odd jobs in the first act of this movie, right? This first scene, they're just doing barbed wire,
Yep.
and
They got to go to the dump.
yeah, they've got to go do a trash run. They've got to do oh God, they've got to
They got to clean the septic tank
that's
of the
it.
trailer
That's
park.
Yep. I also really love this scene early on when they're hammering these like U pins into the top of the posts to anchor down the barbed wire. And Kevin Bacon takes like 15 whacks to
I
get
know,
this thing to
right?
go in, and not because he's not strong enough, but because he keeps missing it. And
Yeah.
it's a very funny scene because he takes forever, and you can see Fred Ward staring at him like, uh-huh, uh-huh. And he's finally like, yeah, let's go.
And then like he finally does get it in one, and then like Fred Ward goes, "Oh my God, Jesus, this guy." But they have that relationship.
Yeah.
Like it's the constant, whose turn is it to make breakfast? You did it yesterday. No, I did it yesterday. They're always playing rock, paper, scissors over any major decision. And I think Fred Ward wins like every time,
Yeah, I think so.
pretty much every time.
Yeah, I think you're right. So they run across, they see a truck out in the desert, and they're like, "Oh, it's a new one," meaning there's always some scientist out here
Yeah.
studying something. And Val is like, "Oh, the new one's supposed to be a girl." And he's
Oh,
and he has
we're
this whole
praying
like,
for the
yeah,
list. The
the
list.
list.
Oh my
Be
God.
blonde, long blonde hair, green eyes, legs that go all the way up, that sort of thing.
I want legs that go all the way up to the neck, where you're just like an acute angle of a human.
Just some form of weird Barbie. Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, pretty much. You're an acute angle with a wig on top.
Yeah.
That's my perfect
Something that
human.
Sid would have made in Toy Story.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they meet Rhonda LeBeck. And again, this is a classic 80s trope, which is you take a pretty woman and you just
Hmm.
put something on her face. Typically it's glasses, although this is creative here. They've put zinc oxide on her nose to give her
Yeah,
a
the
big white
sunblock.
nose. Yeah.
And put her in some boxy shorts,
Uh-huh.
which are perfectly functional. Listen, if you're spending the day out in the desert doing research stuff, yeah, what you're not wearing like what? Yeah, no, this is
No,
totally normal. But she's got like a frumpy hat on.
that's it.
Does not match the sort of bleach dyed blondes that Kevin Bacon has stapled to the rear view mirror of his car.
Yeah. So anyways, she is Rhonda is out here in the desert just doing seismological readings.
Mhm.
And she keeps asking if they're doing any drilling or blasting, and they're like, "No, not out here. Like, there's nothing to do out here." Um, because she's getting some really strange readings. Mm.
Oh.
So then we've got the general store, which is run by Walter Chang.
Mhm.
And so this is kind of like the central meeting place for everyone in town.
Yeah.
So
Well,
we've
this
got
town only has like one street.
Yes, it has one street, it has one general store. You've got Walter who runs it. You've got Bert and Heather, played by Michael Gross and Reba McEntire.
Hmm.
I think it's hilarious that they cast Michael Gross to play this like off-grid conservative gun-toting person
Right.
when this is the dad from Family Ties who
I
is like
know.
all about like the most softy lefty liberal family.
Yeah. But we also still have the softy lefty liberal family, the I think it's Nancy, and I don't even know her
And her
husband name. He doesn't last very long, I don't
ne-
think.
oh no, he doesn't. Is she
Not
married to
Nestor.
Nestor? Yeah.
But she's like, my kiln. Come on, guys. Listen. I moved out to the desert to, she's like living her she's living her fantasy of like, building pottery in the desert.
Yeah, they retired and moved out of San Diego or
Yeah.
San Francisco or something 5 years ago. Bought a cheap place in the middle of the desert because yeah, living out some type of dream to make art. And they've got their little daughter Mindy, who is on a pogo stick pretty much constantly throughout this
Yes.
opening
And
act.
obsessively counting, which I love that as a thing. And also, is this the same the same actress who was the teenage girl in Jurassic Park? I think.
Oh, is this really?
I think so.
I remember looking her up, and I know that
Yes,
currently,
yes, it is.
okay, it is. The
But it was one of
woman,
those things, when you see like a child actor
uh-huh.
and like and this movie, which is she's quite young, but then you're like, that like you're trying to imagine the adult face, and even though like she was just a teenager in Jurassic Park, it's like a more mature face. You're like, where do I know that? Where do I know her?
Oh, yeah, you're right. You're right. I'm looking at her now. Yeah. Yeah, she's got a real Reese Witherspoon vibe about
Oh
her.
yeah, totally.
She is presently an artist. She's a painter. She's a visual artist now.
Oh, very
She's not
cool.
an actor anymore. So good for her. Uh, we've also got a couple of like there's also a Nestor, that which is Nancy's husband, Miguel, and also there is the kid. There's the annoying
Oh,
teenage boy,
the annoying
Melvin.
teenager.
Is that his name?
Yeah, I think
He's
so.
your classic 80s prankster kid. He's just always doesn't take anything seriously, thumbs his nose at authority, always has a
Yeah,
basketball,
that those darn kids. Literally of those darn of previously heard those darn kids.
Yep. It's amazing. We also set up that there is the old school kind of buffet sort of shaped Pepsi machines.
Oh yeah.
I really loved these as a kid because they had the you open the top and then all the bottles were on like little tracks hung by
Oh
the lip of
yeah.
the bottle, and so you kind of like slid the bottle cap all the way around to the thing. You put in the quarter and it released the hatch and then you could slide it out.
Oh, I love it.
Okay, so they but we also set up that broken Pepsi machine. Boy, it sure does make a lot of noise.
That sure does make a lot of noise.
Just
So
every now
many
and then.
things make noise.
Mm-hmm.
The noise gambit. This movie. By the
uh
end, I'm like, what even is the physics? What is physics, Jeffrey?
no, oh man, I can't even wrap my head around what is freedom, let alone physics, for crying
Yeah,
out
no,
loud.
I don't know.
I think I've told this story before, is that my freshman year in college, I thought I was going to be a civil engineering. I was a civil engineering major, but I thought I was going to continue in civil engineering. And I took mechanical physics 218 at Texas A&M University, freshman first semester. And by early November, on the last week to drop the class, I had an average of 0. Our
Oh
whole
yeah.
grade was based off of a weekly quiz in the end of class, and I failed everyone with a 0. I was that bad
Oh
at mechanical
damn.
physics,
Damn.
which is good. You don't need people not good at physics making bridges in this
Making, yeah,
world.
'cause I know, right? You're like,
So,
this looks good. This
so
works. It equals
kudos to
out,
that
doesn't it?
horrible school for doing that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've got some funny gags of like Val and Earl when they're doing the septic thing, like the septic pipe bursts on them, and I'm like, you
Yep.
are honestly, you're dead without a doctor if
Oh
that
my God.
septic tank sprays all over you
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah.
Okay, so their plan after this septic pipe
They're
bursts.
like, that's it, the final straw. We're getting out of perfection. We're going to go somewhere else where there's more opportunities for a couple of smart guys like us.
I really enjoy that the town Bixby is great.
I
One, it's a
know.
great name, but also like it's throughout this movie, it's kind of it's the symbol of hope, right? It's
Yeah.
the thing that these boys can get to. They're gonna move to Bixby, the big town.
It's
Um,
like it's like the three sisters wanting to go to Moscow.
it is, yeah, totally.
They're like, someday we'll get there. Do you remember when we used to live in Moscow? Do you remember when we Bixby, the bright lights of Bixby? Someday we'll get there. They do not move.
Yep. Yep.
Or it's more like life. They try to move, but life keeps throwing giant slug monsters in their way.
That's basically
Just
it.
like Chekhov.
Yep. So they but there's this thing where like every time they try and, leave, something's in their way, and the very first thing that gets in their way is actually their own conscience because they see Edgar Deems up on
Yep.
the giant electrical tower.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, what's he doing up there? He's always drinking. He got drunk, went up there. Let's go get him down. Rock, paper, scissors. Val
Yep.
always loses. He has to
Yep.
climb up for him. And they find dead ass Edgar up there.
He's dead. He's dead from exposure, the doctor
Yeah.
says.
Yeah.
Can you imagine that? Like you're so scared you climb up the thing and then you just don't leave
Yeah.
for days.
Yeah.
Which I love this as a, as again, like the first like third of this movie is kind of a mystery.
Mm-hmm.
You don't see the graboids, you don't know there's monsters underground, there's something killing people or something there's something in the desert.
Yeah.
But the question, on all these characters' minds is like, what would possibly keep someone up, like treed up a telephone pole for that long that he
Yeah.
dies of thirst?
Yeah. We cut over to old man Fred has a sheep farm, and the sheep are all losing their goddamn minds.
Oh yeah.
And then the next thing we know, we also, as he's hoeing the soil, like
Yes.
and it's all that tapping, it's all the sheep running around, it's
Yeah.
all that noise, and they just suck him down into the
Yep.
earth.
Okay. Again with the physics. But you know what? How does land work?
Yeah. Um,
I don't know.
yeah, the whole notion of the way these monsters move through the earth is that the dirt becomes essentially like water whenever they want it to become that way.
Uh-huh. Yes. And when they move through that dirt, they leave holes that you cannot see from above.
Uh-huh.
You can kind of see a little bit of dust, but I do feel like they would leave some sort of trail.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah. Yeah.
But no, no, no. No, no, no. This is Jaws on the land. So it has to be a little more mysterious than that.
It's also so Warner Brothers, like the idea of like Bugs Bunny moving beneath the ground and just
Oh, I
leaving
know,
like a
right?
little like a and just a
Like,
line of dirt.
yeah,
you know?
just a little trail of dust.
Yep.
Like, like you literally see their little, their little pincers moving, kicking up a cloud of dust behind
Yep.
them.
They've got like 5 giant snakes or eels for tongues.
Yeah.
Yeah. Val and Earl are like, all right, well now we'll try
Okay.
again. Let's get out of here.
You get the doctor. We talk to the doctor. Here, take
Yeah.
poor old guy.
And they're talking the whole time about like, yeah, who could have scared him enough to make him die up on that electrical
Yeah.
tower like that?
Because he had a gun in his hand. And
Yeah.
if you have a gun in your hand, you shouldn't be afraid of anything, Jeffrey.
Yeah. That's right. You're right. That is freedom, right? And they then they drive past old man Fred's place and they see just a bloody sheep pen.
Ugh. Ugh.
Ugh.
That seems antithetical to how these graboids eat, but okay, sure, sure.
Yep.
It's just more of the suck and consume variety rather than maybe by this point, it's early on in the movie, I know, but they're very picky
Yes.
eaters.
They
They're
are.
like, I want this, but I don't want that. This part, no.
Yeah.
Spit that out.
They definitely behave less like animals and more like serial killers. Like
Oh
they
my
are
God,
playing
right?
with their food a lot.
Yeah.
Because I don't get the sense that they're that hungry. I get a sense that they're actually this is a form of play for them.
Yeah. Menace.
Um, yeah. Well, they've shredded the sheep, and then Val finds Fred's hat, picks it up, and
Oh my
sees
God.
Fred's distorted maw below
I know,
the
right? Just,
hat.
just like they just left the head behind.
Yeah.
Again, what? Huh? Okay, you know what? Fine. But it's a fun, scary reveal. But it's again like it's that whole thing of like we're in PG-13 kind of horror territory of um it's a jump scare, but it's not terribly graphic of a jump scare.
No. No, not at all. Everything is stylized cartoonish sort of
Yeah,
thing.
pretty bloodless. This
Yeah.
movie is.
Um yeah, a while back we did Cocaine Bear. I feel like this is in the same realm as that. Sort of like but Cocaine Bear
But
though,
Cocaine Bear had like lots
Cocaine
of
Bear
gore
was
compared
like
to
yeah, I was
this.
gonna say yeah, like
But
30
they
years
leaned into the
later.
comedy of like
Yeah.
we're now so desensitized
Yes.
to gore and graphic violence that it's able to play with those violent tropes.
Yeah. Yeah. And this one is more about the the creative way in which you demonstrate the death. Like man gets
Yeah.
sucked under.
Yeah.
Later we'll see I think the station wagon sucked down death is
Station
one of the
wagon,
best. Yeah.
the jackhammer moment that's
Well,
coming up here in a second.
yep.
Again,
Oh, the
like,
jackhammer one is so good.
I mean, it's great. It like what I find really creative about this movie are these moments of like, how do you portray something that's underneath the ground? But if you stop to think about a bit like freedom,
Uh-huh.
if you stop to think about it for anything longer than just a few minutes,
Hmm.
things like asphalt,
Yes.
I was like, why don't you just, surely there's an asphalt road. The Graboids don't seem to be able to go through asphalt. That seems a bit much for them, or
Yeah.
concrete. I don't
Yeah.
know. No, 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 no. No, no, no.
Yeah.
Don't know.
Yeah. Um, yeah, the physics of just how their body, just their structure of their bodies, like they're getting unloaded on later in this movie by machine guns
Yeah.
and nothing is happening. But then they run into a concrete wall and they just splatter.
Trouble. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so God, now we're poor Val and Earl, they're having to deal with this. They kind of warn the highway construction crews
Yeah.
about whatever, and they're like, they're just pulling our chain. Next
I
thing
know.
we
They're like,
know,
there's a murderer on the loose.
yeah. And the jackhammer guy hits one of the beasts right below his feet. And this jackhammer, we hear the creature kind of roar in pain,
Yeah.
and then we see the jackhammer just move like a, like move through the dirt up a little
Yeah.
hill.
And he like gets tangled in his leg, the cord, and it just pulls him up and over.
Yeah. And then we see like kind of a big, there's a big landslide that happens then. All the
Yeah.
rocks come tumbling down, which blocks the one road out of
Oh
town and
no.
crushes both of the construction workers. So now everyone's trapped in town. We don't know
Yep.
how to get out of here. The only way that we know is there's a Jeep trail up over them granite mountains. Okay. Also, at one point in time, as they're trying to drive away, they snag on something, and when they get back to the general store, they look under Val's truck and they see a whole like snake-looking thing wrapped around the axle.
Some sort of tentacle. And I
Yeah,
love this is like, because we don't, I mean, we know, but we also don't quite know like the big reveal of the Jaws like lands, I don't know,
land
land
shark.
shark, land
Uh-huh.
shark. Um, so we're like, oh, they're these little things,
Uh-huh.
these little tentacle like python looking creatures.
Yeah. Well, there's a whole bit about they sell it to Walter for $15 and he just
Yeah,
sets up
right.
like a little place where you can take your picture with the snake monster looking thing.
So Americana. Like the
Yeah, it really
motion of they're
is.
like, we have found this unusual natural wonder. Come and pay me $5 to stand in front of it.
Yep. Okay, so also Bert is the one who points out, when they see this snake thing, Bert is the one who's like, listen, if there's some kind of a monster out there, like it just one of these couldn't eat up Fred's whole flock of sheep. So
Sure.
we got our first hint now that maybe it's not just a monster, it is
Yeah.
several monsters.
Yeah.
All right, the doctor and his wife, they
Ah,
they've got a station wagon, they've got a trailer with a generator, and they've got a little lot next to the trailer where you see the
yeah.
framework of a house that they're building. Like
They're
this is
building a
their
little,
retirement plan.
yeah, they're building like they're like, look up at the sky. It's the beautiful desert sky. It's the joys of freedom. You
Mm-hmm.
got your Oldsmobile playing, you know, like
Oh,
old timey country hits.
yeah.
The
Um,
simple life.
it is the simple life. Well, the generator goes out and they go to check on it and it is gone. Like it is,
Yeah. Sucked right down.
uh-huh. It's just, and then when they try pulling on the cord and it's
It's
detached,
just
like the
gone.
cord's severed.
Yeah.
And this thing spits the generator straight up into the air. It's patooey. Nope, not
What?
food.
What? Oh my goodness.
Um, Jim gets pulled under.
Yeah.
She has to go running back into the car, but she doesn't have the keys. They're in
Oh
Jim's
no.
pocket.
Yeah, and he has been et.
Uh-huh. And then this
The
is the first time we see like the actual snake action, right?
we see like all three of the python like tentacles, and the design is pretty cool. Like they're clearly sightless. They have like almost like a sort of like a dome on their head.
Uh-huh.
They, they do look a little bit hand sock, Sherry Lewis,
Uh-huh.
lamb chop.
Uh-huh.
But you know what? They move. They're slimy, which I think is like the most important thing. Like the characters in this movie keep talking about how much these things smell.
Yes.
Like you can smell when they're around, when they're above ground. And I think making them oozy slimy was a really good choice.
Yeah. I can't remember what movie we talked about where we got into, was it on this show? Anyways, talking about a movie wherein like they had to cut the blood back. Oh, I know what it was. Um our pal Dan and I went with Dan to go watch From Beyond at
Oh
Nighthawk
yeah.
Cinema last month. And it was so much fun, but the screenwriter was there and he did a little talk afterwards and he talked about after they had made they had done Reanimator and there's so much blood and then they were doing
Yeah.
From Beyond and the producers are like, you can't have this much blood because the your original cut for Reanimator was X. You know what I
Oh
mean? And
shit.
part of the reason why Reanimator did so poorly in the box office was because of they released it without a rating. And if it releases without a
Oh.
rating, you at the time you couldn't advertise it.
Oh wow.
And so they didn't do any marketing for it. So they were like, "Can you cut back on the blood?" And they were like, "Absolutely." And so From Beyond doesn't have much blood in it, but it is disgusting because it's so slimy.
Yeah.
And
They're like, oh, you don't want no blood. Okay, sure. How about green ooze?
I think gross is actually more unnerving than gory,
Yeah,
if that makes any
can be.
sense. Yeah. Well, these slimy fucking things, they
They
give
take
up.
down the
They
entire. Oh yeah, like,
they
oh
give
yep,
up. Oh,
okay,
no,
yeah,
you're in a
okay,
car. Fair
goodbye,
enough. See you later.
bye, bye. Land shark, land shark.
And then the next thing she knows, this car is being pulled into the dirt below.
Physics.
Physics.
I'm like, what?
I know enough
Huh?
about physics that there is a thing called displacement.
I
That you
know.
have to like, it's the
Where's
most,
the Earth going? Where's the Earth? Like the if the car is taking be what? Huh?
it's
What now?
Eureka in the bathtub that when you sit down, the water level rises
Yes,
because
yes.
you have displaced the water with your body. Where did all of the dirt go?
Uh-huh. But you wouldn't get one of my favorite shots. My second, probably my like up top shots of this movie is like cut to the nice quiet sky, and it's just the two beams of the Oldsmobile just like slowly sinking and then
Uh-huh.
like fading out.
And
I
then like one
love
one
it.
goes out and then the second
Yeah,
goes out. Yeah.
it's so good.
Uh-huh. All right. So, uh, the next thought that townsfolk have in their town meeting is that like, well, maybe what we could do is take horses up
Yeah,
to Bixby. We can ride the horses up over the mountains and then get to the big city of Bixby and get help.
because the phone lines aren't working,
Yes. Oh yeah, the
and
phone
they
lines are out. Yep.
phone lines are out, and the CB radio, they're in some sort of valley, which means the radio signal is not strong enough to reach Bixby.
Yep. Um Again, Val and Earl have such a hard time leaving this place without
I know.
stopping to check on every fucking thing.
Yeah,
I'm like, you guys just I know you care. And I
I know.
really want people like this in my community that
Yeah.
would stop and check in on me if they thought something was weird. But they stop by the doctor's place and they can't find them.
Uh-oh.
And they think, well, their car's not here, so maybe
Oh, we
they
just
just
missed
drove
them.
off.
Yeah.
And then they hear some oldie country radio playing underneath the earth. And I love this visual of like dusting off the sand and then
I
finding the
know.
front grill of the car with headlights on.
Like pointed straight up. Yeah.
Mhm. Boy, sorry, excuse me. I had to let out a little bit of a burp there.
Oh.
Congratulations, me.
Oh.
Again, and then they try, and they're like, all right, now we really have to go.
I know they always have this like they're like, oh my God, it ate an entire car. Run. And it kind of like gives this movie like a little shot of it, or it gives our two characters a shot of adrenaline.
Uh-huh.
So they're like, okay, no, really, no, we're just gonna keep riding, no matter what we see, don't stop. They stop.
Yep. Yeah,
Well, they
they
stop
are
because the
deeply
horses stop
bothered.
because the
Yeah.
horses have horse sense, and at a certain point, the horses are like, nope, nope, something's wrong, something's wrong. One of the horses runs off, the other one gets grabbed. You've been
Yeah.
graboid.
Yeah. I think this is probably the most disturbing death to me
Yeah,
is because it doesn't linger on it, but you do see a shot of a horse on the ground kind of like wrestling with a
yeah.
snake thing around its neck.
Well, for the first time, it has the feel of I think I think Earl even says like something about National Geographic. It has the feeling of like the violence and the disturbing nature of a nature video.
Yeah.
It's like it's not people trying to outsmart underground worms. It's something natural eating something also natural. And
Yeah.
there is something kind of disturbing about that.
Yeah. Yeah, when you look at the brutality of the animal kingdom, because
Yeah.
we try, generally speaking, not to demonstrate that level of
Yeah.
brutality onto ourselves or animals, and then you watch what animals do to each other. You think, wow, okay, we have been very kind.
Yes. Yeah.
They uh they then have to run on foot because this is the first time that the full monster comes up head out of the
Yes.
ground.
And you see it's not just little python things. Those are just its tongues,
Tongues, arms,
the elephant trunk,
yeah,
elephant nose,
yeah.
sexual organs. I don't know,
I don't,
but
yeah,
it belongs to a much larger Dune-esque sandworm.
yeah. And it roars at them and then dives back into the ground and then starts chasing them, and they go running, and then they try to leap this concrete ditch,
Yeah,
viaduct, whatever, and they don't quite make it. They get trapped in the ditch, but that thing runs headlong underground into the concrete barrier and essentially just kills itself
it
by
brains itself,
it brains
but
itself.
it's also like its entire it has a beak, like a front beak. I sure.
Physics.
Uh-huh. Anatomy.
This is when Rhonda shows up,
I love it.
and
Rhonda's
then
like, hey guys, what you doing? Oh, oh
she
my.
didn't hear the horse screaming 3 minutes ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But she's noted, but she's like, there's some weird seismic activity going on. You don't all notice anything just like 3 minutes? Why is there a bloody horse on the ground over there?
why why is the side of this ditch cracked open with like a bloody eel pouring out of it? Yeah.
I love this reveal where they kind of like pry open the concrete and you really like, I think this is necessary at this point in the movie, kind of the act two, the like, the monster revealed, because like we need to take time
Uh-huh.
and like look at it.
Yeah.
We, the audience, I mean, and our characters. Like
Yeah.
they need to know what they're up against. We need to know what they're up against. And this moment, and and like Rhonda being the scientist offers a little bit more, she's clearly like working through the impossibility of this creature, just like what, and I think that's really necessary.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. There's a reason why Hollywood is formulaic, and
Yeah.
this movie is very formulaic. But because we need those beats throughout this, I agree with you. I think it's really nice just to have a moment to see the size of this thing because
Yeah.
they pull its, Val is over there pulling its very tip of its tail up, and he's like, I got the butt end of it.
Yeah. She's inspecting the little like moving, it has like sort of tongue pinchers that moves it along underground.
Yeah.
Sure.
Sure. They're like little tiny oars, like
Yeah.
on an old school galley ship sort of thing. So now she says, according to my data, actually looking at the where the seismic things have happened, I think there are three more of these things. Again, love having a number on it. It
Yes.
gives us a target goal.
Yeah.
And next thing they know, they feel a monster running at them. They're out of the ditch. They have to go running and they climb up onto this like outcropping, this tall stack of rocks.
Yeah.
And they're up there like overnight
Yeah.
because they realize the monster knows they're there and it's waiting them out like it did to Edgar Deems or whatever.
I also love that we've now, like, because the one of them had one of its tentacles removed with the pickup truck
Uh-huh.
moment. Now we have affectionately dubbed it Stumpy.
Uh-huh.
And throughout the movie, we know that there is, like, much like people, there's smarter people and there's dumber people. There's people that learn, there's people that don't learn, people that rush headlong. And Stumpy is like the great white whale that they're going to be chasing throughout the
Yeah.
rest of this one. It's the one that learns.
It's like Stripe and Gremlins. Like there's
Eggs,
always like
yep.
the one monster that is
There has
has
to be an
one
alpha.
trait that lets us know it's the alpha of the
Yeah.
monsters. Okay, this is the scene that I think I remember the most from this movie that I think is so stupid and so wonderful at the same time, which is they wait out the whole night and then the
Yeah.
next morning Rhonda's like, by the way, there just happens to be a very the whole set of Olympic quality pole vaulting
Yeah.
poles next to this rock. Why don't we use these? There's
Uh-huh.
in fact three of them, one for each of us.
What?
How
What?
perfect.
What a coincidence.
So they have to do the little pole vault things between rocks to get all the way over to her old Mazda
Oh my God.
pickup.
I like no kudos to the sort of cheeky 90s harmonica solo soundtrack.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's straight out of like My Girl or Fried Green Tomatoes, or I don't know, name a folksy movie.
Uh-huh.
This movie's got that same soundtrack of like, we're doing it, you guys.
It's such a great scene. It's so much fun. And also, I just want to say, as a lover of I love a pickup truck. I think pickup trucks are great. I like I own a pickup truck. I think they're really fun. I my first car, really sustainable car that didn't break
Yeah,
down within 3 months of having it, was an old like 87 Mazda pickup. And this era Mazda was making pickups, and I don't believe they do in America anymore, but these the ultra compact pickup has gone by
yeah,
the wayside. Like
yeah.
everybody
My
has
dad
these
used to
junk.
have a Mazda. My dad used to have
Yeah,
one.
loved this truck. I think they're
Yeah,
so cool looking. I think they're so nice and practical. They are the size of a CRV or
yeah,
a compact SUV nowadays, and you can haul stuff. They're nice, they're sporty, they're fun.
yeah,
And so, if you are an executive at Mazda and you listen to our show, please bring back your compact pickup
yeah.
trucks because
Like,
they're dope as shit.
and like you don't necessarily need a family of six to fit into the bed or into the cabin of your truck. You
No,
just need a truck.
no. And also, I know she's the scientist, but they're the ultimate like handyman truck because you can fit a
Yeah,
lawnmower and an
yeah,
edger and some
yeah,
tools in the back. Yeah. Anyways, done with pickup trucks. I just got very excited for this like hot red Mazda pickup
yeah.
in the
Nice.
1990 movie. Um,
But they're going
also,
in through the back because
she
they have
has
to
to
go
go through
all
the
go at
back
once.
window. Yeah.
And she's like trying to steer and press the gas pedal with her hand. And she's like, you guys. And of course, the boys are like, we made it. And she's like, I literally can't see where I'm going. Little help, but they make it
Adorable.
out okay because they're in the middle of the desert. And honestly, as long as you're out running one of these graboids, you can kind of
You can figure it out.
yeah.
All right. So now got to get all the way back to the general store because we keep getting trapped out there. We keep having to like
Someday we'll
recenter.
make it to Bixby. Someday they do not move.
They Rhonda thinks that their safest place, so they're trying to figure out how do we've got to get out of here, but where do we
Yeah,
go? How do we get there? Rhonda says like the safest places are in these mountains off, I think, to the west, because it's
Yes.
solid granite and they cannot
Mhm.
clearly go through hard stone.
Yeah. I love it when Valentine literally just pulls a map off the wall and like
Uh-huh.
just catches the audience up. Like, here's where this guy was found. Here's where this guy and his sheep were dead. Here's where they were dead. We're right here. And I think he said like literally we're like a smorgasbord of terror. I don't know.
Uh-huh.
I don't know. But just in case it's not clear for those in the back who have
Yeah.
been making out at the slumber party while watching this movie, they're headed to town.
Yes. This movie is so well structured, right? I'm not going to say well
Like
written.
textbook. No,
Yeah,
it's
it's
like
textbook.
textbook. Like ease up on the gas, have a moment of levity, have a moment of intensity, have cut to some, like characters development, like all of it.
Yeah.
Textbook.
And there's something so it's so important to have these moments of I need a visual. This is a film.
Yeah.
Show me a visual. If you got to tell me
Yeah.
about it too, that's great, but just let me know what's
Give me a
happening.
visual and also make sure everybody's a kind of or everybody that's important is around to see it because later one of the most tedious scenes is when like they're on the CB radio trying to describe to like Heather and Bert. They're like, no, they come from under the ground, you guys.
Uh-huh.
You missed the town meeting where we all talked about this,
Yeah.
so now we're gonna have to recap it for you. And oh Jesus.
Hmm. So now the two kids that live in this town,
Yeah.
population of 14, um
One has a basketball, one has a pogo stick. Who's going to
yes.
get eaten first?
Yeah, so Nancy is now like as they're starting to realize like something bad is out there. Nancy doesn't quite believe in the monsters just yet,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
she is worried about like I got to find Mindy.
Yeah.
Mindy's off listening to her Walkman and
Oh my
pogo
God. The
sticking.
Walkman. See, as much as you love the Mazda pickup truck, I'm
Uh-huh.
like the Walkman with the little orange foam ear
Uh-huh.
protectors. Oh my God.
So good.
That is nostalgia to me. That is
Uh-huh.
pure nostalgia, like 80s, 90s nostalgia.
Yeah.
Tape cassette player. Oh my God. When I was in high school, I actually took all of my gym credits over the course of one summer. You had to have 2 gym credits over your high school career, and I took it all at once. So I essentially did gym every day for 8 hours a day over a summer vacation. Which
Wow.
gym over summer, like the summer term gym is like for an entire week, you just walk around the track for 8 hours. Then the next week we went bowling.
Uh-huh.
I think that was about it. But I listened to my little Walkman with the like orange foam headset, and I listened to like the Footloose soundtrack, the
Yes.
Flashdance soundtrack.
Uh-huh.
Maybe there's a couple of other like, like the Madonna's Immaculate Collection
Uh,
cassette tape,
Perfect.
because there was just like unsupervised. They're just like, yeah, just walk around the track, just keep going. We've got
Yeah.
6 more hours of this. So I just listened to cassette tapes on repeat.
Melvin, the teenage punk ass kid in this movie, has been constantly
The Boy
boy
Who
who
Cried
cried
Wolf.
wolf.
Yep.
Yep.
Yep. Like he's constantly jumping out with the dead one, be like, oh, it's got me, even though everyone's carrying loaded shotguns and shit.
Yeah. And then but he's out there dribbling his basketball. Again, everything makes noise.
Yep.
Uh and then the next thing he knows, he dribbles the ball down, but it does not come back up.
See, like the camera work in this movie is so fucking creative.
Uh
Like it's really like it's a lot, not visual puns. Like it's not in sort of the Scott Pilgrim versus the World kind of that level of visual puns because it's still within the world of the film.
yeah.
But the storytelling is very creative with the camera work.
Yeah. Well, the next thing we know, he's climbed up this pole by the outhouse and is screaming
Actual
for
fear,
help. Yeah.
actual terror.
They all come outside and, Earl is like, you need an ass kicking child.
Yeah,
Like, and then they realize his pants are all torn up, his legs
yeah.
bloody, and they're like, oh shit.
It's in town. And
And the
Mindy's just
monsters know they're,
pogoing away.
yeah, and the monsters also know that they're in the general store. So they're starting to bump up against the floorboards
Yeah.
from underground. And Rhonda says, everyone quiet, don't move,
Yeah.
no noises, no vibrations. That's how they know we're here. And then everything gets calm. And then across the street, there's fucking Mindy. Badonk, badonk,
Yep.
badonk, badonk on her pogo stick.
But again, I'm like, she's on like an asphalt road. It's fine. It's fine.
Everything's fine.
It's fine. It can totally get her. Totally. But of course, Kevin Bacon's gotta go run and go save her.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, and he goes running at Mindy and he basically tackles her
Yeah.
off of this pogo stick. And Nancy comes out there to be like, "What the fuck are you doing to my
Yeah.
daughter?" And that pogo stick remains upright and then just sucked underground.
Uh-huh.
And then Patooey spit back up in the
Spin.
air.
Nope. Nope. Did not like that. Fish bones.
Uh, Earl and who's our woman? Oh, Rhonda. Earl and Rhonda
Yeah.
are running to get them, but then they get chased by a graboid.
Yeah. Now there's two of them. There's two of them around,
Mm-hmm.
which makes sense because if you've got this many people, you've got to spread around the love of, like the terror, you know.
Yeah,
So there's like they could be anywhere.
yeah. And Rhonda gets caught on some barbed wire,
Yes.
and again, Val comes to save her. This is so goofy. It's like you got to take your pants off.
Yeah. Because it's literally like the graboid is just like reeling her in like a fish
Yeah.
with the barbed wire, which
Mm-hmm.
how it knows that there's a food at the end of that barbed wire, unknown.
Yeah.
But it's got a feel. It has worm sense.
Yeah. I think in a more aggressive horror movie, there's not a lot of death in this movie. Like the
Yeah.
deaths are kind of, I think, mostly done. We got one more, I think, to go
I think
in
yeah, like
Walter.
yeah, two more.
Oh, two more. Oh, yeah. But yeah, two more. Yeah, Walter and Nestor. Um, but I think in a more aggressive horror movie, we probably have a higher body count. And Melvin, I think, morally probably should get killed because in this scene,
Yeah.
Rhonda is like sees him open the door to this outbuilding that he's hiding in,
Yeah.
being like, "Help!" And he just slowly closes the door
I
on her.
know.
Dickhead.
Very Western though. It's
Uh-huh.
very the when the shit hits the fan, people's morals are tested.
Yeah. Okay. We are now watching Bert and Heather drive back to their desert compound.
Yep.
They've got pretty big house that also has kind of like a half basement where they keep
Yeah.
all of their guns and bomb making tools.
Now, I have a question. Maybe you know this. Like, okay, so and again, they were not there for the whole conversation and they don't see just how big these things are. So Heather turns on some sort of machine with ammunition and sand. What is she doing? Is she like grinding serial numbers off of ammunition? Like, what is that thing?
I don't know.
I like this is a question that I was like, if my father were alive, he would definitely have the answer for this.
Uh-huh.
But I do not know how to put this search terms into Google. Be like, why do you put sand and bullets into a machine? Like that's just going to lead down a road that I don't know if I want to go down.
No, I sure
But
don't.
it makes a lot of noise. That's all we need to know.
Yes.
It's like a rock tumbler, essentially.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just trying to make very pretty bullets. I don't
Yeah,
know.
shine them up.
But they have walkie-talkies or their CB radio
Yeah, their CB is
basically.
like it works
It
within.
works locally.
Yeah,
So they're using the CB radio to get a hold of Bert and Heather to be like, "You got to get out of your basement.
get on the roof.
Get on the roof." And uh, they they're a little bit, especially Bert is like, I don't know, this is where nobody's gonna fuck with us down
Don't
here.
tell me what to do.
That's right. But again, one bursts through the wall and they have to open fire on it. This is hilarious because they start with their rifles, and then they switch to a shotgun, then they
Yep.
switch to automatic rifles, and they switch to like she's got pistols, and then he breaks the glass to take out the elephant rifle.
Well, to me, like what I love, this is my favorite shot. And this is the shot that I remember the most of this movie. And this is why, like, I think the Americanness of this movie kind of hit a chord. Because, we've seen that they have like very expensive looking rifles. The thing bursts through, bang, 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 bang. But they run out.
Mm-hmm.
The thing's not dead.
Yeah.
And then the camera just pans to the left, and it's an entire wall of guns.
Yep.
And it happens really fast. It doesn't hang a lampshade on it, but it's just moments like that that I think are so funny and so smart storytelling wise, because we think, oh, surely oh no, but they've gone through all 10, 15 rounds of the guns. No, no, no. Not these two. These two have dozens of
Uh-huh.
guns.
Uh-huh.
But it's that visual storytelling that I think is just like made an impact on me. And it's kind of a commentary on America,
Mm-hmm.
just a little bit.
It's very true. Two shots from this elephant gun, and they managed to kill the one that's inside their
Yeah.
home. Uh, very famous line from this movie when Michael Gross says, "Broke into the wrong goddamn rec room, did you,
I
you
know,
bastard?"
right? Just a rec room. Just the use of the
The
term
rec
rec
room.
room.
But they make their way to the roof. They get all their shit, get up to the roof. There's another one circling their
Yeah.
place now, and he keeps firing the elephant rifle, but elephant rifle doesn't work now because it's losing.
It's underground.
Yeah, because it's underground.
And I love it that like Reba McEntire. Come on, Reba fucking McEntire. They give her some of the, or she like her readings of some of these lines. She's like, well, of course it's not going to work. It has no like the surface tension, like a very matter of fact, just like, yeah, dummy. You
Uh-huh.
can't shoot a bullet into the ground like it's water as he just fires away.
They start figuring it out. The monsters start figuring out that they can undermine the foundation of these buildings.
Yeah,
There's two of these monsters left, and so
yeah,
they're working on both houses, or I'm sorry, the house and the general store to
yeah. The
take
general
down the
store. There's
foundation.
a trailer. I think Rhonda's up a water tower by this point.
Yeah. And at one point in time it knocks over Nestor's. I don't think Nestor is married to Nancy. Nestor,
Yeah,
because Nestor has his trailer, Nancy
yeah.
has a house, but Nestor's sitting up on top of his trailer, and it knocks
Yeah.
that over.
It like that thing is not as structurally sound as
Mm,
these other things.
no.
Oh,
And
Nestor, that thing it goes up and over,
yep.
which, part of me's like, it's kind of like the Titanic. Like you have to kind of go like up and then no,
Nope.
no. And they're like, Nestor, get to higher ground. So what does he do? He sits on a tire.
On a big tractor tire, and it sucks him butt first down through that tire.
So silly.
And I think Nestor is Melvin's dad, because this is the moment that
Oh,
Melvin is freaking out.
that does make a bit of sense. Yeah.
And they're all kind of staring at Melvin, being like, I feel bad for you, kid, but this is where we're at,
Yeah.
like, you're
Yeah.
gonna have to focus. So Val's new plan is we're gonna have to get out of here together. Like,
Yeah.
could we all get into a thing? And they realize that Chevy Blazer, they can all fit into the Chevy
Yeah.
Blazer. The Chevy Blazer is capable at its four-wheel drive self to be able to get
To go
over
up the
the
mountain. Yep.
mountains. That Jeep trail, it's gonna be fine. Um, but then as they mention it, that monster just
It's
flattens all four tires on that
Yep.
Blazer
Yep. Half eats that car. As if
under
it
the
knew.
driveway, under the concrete.
As
How?
if it knew.
Yeah,
And they're
these
like, yeah,
monsters are
nix
real
on the
smart.
nix on the Blazer. There you guys.
So the next option is the Caterpillar. They've got the cat, they've got the
Okay.
big machine, the slow moving tractor, but it can't eat the tractor. The tractor
Yeah.
is too much. steel, too much,
Too
whatever.
wide to
Yeah.
something. Yeah.
And they can hook up the fifth wheel on that tractor too. And basically, there's a long, perfectly shaped canister of like
Yeah.
a half an oil tanker that,
Yeah.
it's a grain carrier, I guess, that they
Yeah.
can all dive into the back of. So now their plan is run a distraction. So
Yep.
Miguel finds the little tiny like riding mower
Uh-huh.
tractor, little riding mower, rigs it up to ride on its own, starts it up, and it just
It
starts
just goes.
riding out.
And I love that it goes like almost directly to like Nancy and Mindy's. I was like,
Yeah.
no, no. But Kevin Bacon goes a running.
Yeah,
He's
he
off
goes
and
running the
running.
opposite direction to the cat while the monster follows the riding mower. Riding mower gets tipped over, and you can hear the monster get annoyed at what,
I know, like,
like, oh, you fooled
uh,
me.
I know it's so silly. And of course, it hears Kevin Bacon from all the way over there.
Hmm.
So that we have the like a quiet place. This is not where they're like making noise to distract it. And Kevin, this shot also, this like the interaction of Kevin Bacon being very still and the
Yeah,
graboid tentacle kind of like searching for him.
I love
Like,
this,
I
the way
know
he
there
has
was
to lift a boot in
food.
the air.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like I know there was food here a minute ago, but it seems to have gone quiet, which means it must have completely disappeared.
Hmm. I love that. I love that. I love him just having to like lift one foot in the air to
Yeah.
kind of balance and not fall over. Anyway, she somebody they distract the monster enough to where he can then, oh, I know what it is. Rhonda
Oh, that's right, with the water
breaks the
tower.
water tower, or breaks open a pipe on the water tower, so all that water creates the noise. And then he gets up on that cat and hooks up the trailer to it. And
Graboids try to run back and get him, but it's too much.
it's too much. They cannot
Ah,
defeat
their
the
plan's going to
tractor.
work.
So he gathers everyone up. This cracks me up. So he starts picking up everyone one by one,
Hmm.
everybody left in town. They all hop in the back. And then they go to get Bert and Heather, and they are up on their roof making pipe bombs, Cecil.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Yeah. Like ball bearings, sulfur, which, I mean, if you've got an hour to kill,
Yeah.
you know, throw some pipe bombs in the in your backpack.
Yeah. These pipe bombs make me so nervous because there's a scene coming up where they are like just tying a rope around them and then using
I
them
know,
like a
right?
lasso and then
Yeah.
throwing them out. I'm like, get rid of that. The moment that is lit, it leaves your hand.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so
They're throwing they make it up to Heather and Bert. Heather and Bert have a lot of stuff. And this is where like the comedy of like, oh, married couple being like, which should we take? This one or this one? I don't know. Well, this one's got more fire. This one's long range shooting. But they're like, get in the van.
yeah, yeah. This is where I'm like, actually, we're leaving now.
Yeah.
Like a little train conductory about it. I'm
Hmm.
like, no, you don't get to pause. We are on a schedule.
Yes. They're
So
doing it. They're off.
they
They're headed out.
they're heading out and they're getting close to the big granite mountain, big rock candy mountain, and
Hmm.
they see the monsters doing stuff. It's almost like whales, like on a
Yeah.
ship, on the way you see
Yeah.
like whales breaching or like
Yeah. It's like
their
off in the
blowholes spraying
distance.
up. And they're like, "What are they doing?" They're like, "Well, it don't matter as long as they're doing it over there. It's fine."
Hmm.
And the next thing they know, the ground gives way and that tractor crashes because they
Again, the
dug a
only
trench.
but aren't they always digging trenches? Like that's their nature is to dig. Wouldn't there be those kind of track marks throughout this entire valley just from them moving around? But you know what? No,
And wouldn't you driving it see the trench ahead of time? I don't
I
know.
know,
There's
right?
a
Would there
lot
be
of
like some
question
sort
here.
a lot? Yeah, they've somehow camouflaged their tracks.
Yeah. Uh,
Sure,
sh-
but
sure.
it sends the thing sort of into the ditch and people go flying and they all run to another rock outcropping because we know the rock outcroppings are safe. And
Yeah.
there's a moment where like Mindy falls and Earl has to like carry her. It's pretty action hero kind of stuff.
Yeah. Um And then Bert, they're all, there's this is the brief moment of fighting
I
because
know.
Bert
Yeah.
when
Let's talk.
Bert's
This moment's really interesting. I didn't remember this one.
yeah, I didn't either because when Rhonda is explaining like to Bert and Heather, who have not been altogether present with
Yeah.
everyone else because they're the off-grid isolationists.
Yeah.
This is when Bert and Heather are learning, Bert in particular is learning they'll wait you out.
Yeah.
We're trapped on this rock. And he freaks out on Val, being like, "Oh, fearless leader,
Yeah.
look at where you
They're
got us."
like,
And yeah,
we had 5 years worth of food and water and electricity, completely safe, and you got us out of our little. We could have holed up in our compound and been fine,
uh-huh.
but because of this darn thing called community, we're
This
now
darn
stuck out here in the middle of on a rock exposed
yeah.
for the greater good.
This is an incredible scene in when you think about how we work as Americans
It's
too,
the implications of it are kind of interesting.
because they are so isolationist that they
Yeah.
actually kind of like just naturally turned toward somebody's taken over leadership. Great. I don't have to think. I don't have to
Yeah.
do. I can just because they're defensive minded. They're there
Yeah.
to hole up and protect their land,
Yeah.
not to take action and be part of a community. And they they find themselves really annoyed, but they ride it out and
Again, Reba McEntire saves the day. She's
uh-huh.
like, I know he's being an asshole. He's
Yeah,
just,
I love this. Yeah.
like it's so her line readings are so fucking natural. I don't know.
Uh-huh.
And it's like it's Reba McEntire. Like, what? But she's comes off really kind of fresh and fun in this movie.
Yeah.
Like there's I don't know. I think there's a reason why this is kind of a mini cult classic.
She's uh she's in this movie a lot less than I remembered. I remembered being really thinking that Reba McEntire was a major
Yeah.
player in this movie.
Yeah.
And she kind of is in her minimal time, like Judi Dench and Mrs. Brown,
Exactly.
just right.
She only needs
Yeah.
3 minutes to get
Yeah.
and just like a couple of scenes, a couple lines, and the rest of the time she's just shooting guns.
Yeah.
Literally, that's all she does is shoot guns.
Yeah. Sorry, Judi Dench in Shakespeare in Love. It was
Shakespeare in
yeah,
Love. Yeah.
yeah. Okay. Bert makes the comment, he kind of does like the thing we've talked about on the show of like the useful death, like right in the
Yeah.
zombie movie. If I've been
Yeah.
bit, hand me the grenade. I will walk into the pack of zombies and help you guys out. And
Yeah.
that's what he says. Like, I'm taking one of these. When it comes down to it, I'm not dying of starvation or
Mhm.
dehydration. I'm walking out there with one of these. And they're like, dude, that's really dark. And Earl says, actually, it's a good idea. And they have the idea of fishing by tying
Mhm.
these bombs to a rope, throwing it out into the desert and moving it.
Swallowed. Yeah.
Yeah.
And explode.
And they do it and they blow one of them up. Vodka sauce everywhere.
But oh my God, it's so orange.
This is a funny, also a very funny, cartoony, comedic beat, which is the shot of everyone standing on the rock, staring at something off screen in the distance,
Yeah.
going, "Yay!" And then splat, 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 splat.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And everyone's different reaction. Like some people are still excited. I think Melvin is like pulling orange sheep guts or, worm guts off of him. Like, gross, man. Like it's very Nickelodeon generation.
Uh-huh.
I've been slimed.
I've been slimed. So they were like, well, that worked. Let's do it again. They tried again.
Yes, because this is our last one, but it's Stumpy.
Mm-hmm.
It's Stripe. It's the smart one.
Yeah. And this one swallows it and then spits it straight in the air and it lands on their rock next to their duffel bag full of pipe bombs. And all they do is just duck down 5 feet away from a sack
Yeah.
of bombs
Well, on the other side, this kind of makes sense. Like they go kind of run to like
to the
duck
other
and cover
side.
on the other side of the rock. But somehow 3 of the characters have run 50 feet.
Yeah.
They
Yeah,
just
yeah.
took off running, which I mean is a natural response. If there is a bomb coming to you, I think I would also just run blindly.
Yeah. Yeah. So nobody dies in the bomb blast, but oh, I'm so I realized that I forgot. Can we backtrack just a second? We'll leave this in order, but we'll pause there for the tension
Mhm.
of what's about to happen in the final
What? Oh
moments.
no.
Can we just go back? I feel like I have completely missed Walter's death back in
Oh yeah.
the
Yeah, we missed
general
Walter's
store.
death because it's a moment of shock,
Uh-huh.
but it's also, listen, I'm glad you brought this up because this is literally the only time we see somebody in the mouth of one of these
Hmm.
graboids. And like Victor Wong is like classic 80s, character actor. And this is the moment where he's like in the thing, like they're in the general store. The monsters come up. It's a bit of a
Because of
jump
the Pepsi
scare
machine.
because of the Pepsi machine. But he is being flung around like a rag doll in the mouth
Yeah.
of this graboid.
Yeah.
And I just remember, I think it was like maybe Mark Gagliardi or Hal Lublin or one of those guys were talking about like their actor friends in Hollywood that have like their death reels. So like friends that have like really dramatic deaths in films that have put together like a supercut reel of all the insane ways that they've died.
Uh-huh.
And one, I love that. Two, if Walter Chang has a death reel, I certainly hope that this is on it because this
Yes.
death is ridiculous and
It,
amazing.
it's so bonkers. It's so silly. I mean, it's really sad because he's such a likable guy. He's such
Of
a
course.
likable
Yeah.
character, but that's part of the horror movie, the monster movies. You got to watch somebody, something has to be at stake. So you're going to have to kill a good one. And yeah, so sorry, I had left Walter's death off of there, but that
Oh,
was
it's also like Walter and Melvin are the ones that come up. I love it. The scene where they're brainstorming what to call them. Again, a very American idea.
hmm.
They're like, if we're going to market these things, we live in the Valley of Sandworms. What do we call them? Graboid. They're like graboid. Like it's a very American thing to come up with a name for something that is to name the unnamed
Yeah.
is America's favorite pastime.
Yeah, and also kind of coming out of that mid-century Route 66 era of, traveling west, everyone going west, and you're
Yeah.
driving out to the west in these highways, these
Yeah.
newfangled things called highways,
Yeah.
wherein you can, connect to everything. And then there's all kinds of silly little touristy stops,
Yeah.
world's largest ball of twine or
Yep.
whatever.
The mystery house, the Midwest mystery house. Like what makes our little podunk town different from every other podunk town you're going to hit from here to the coast? Well, we have graboids.
Yep.
See the graboids.
Okay, fast forward. Now we're
Okay.
back to
Woof.
the big
See, we had a
sack of
flash.
bombs just
Can you
went
do a
off.
podcast flashback? We just did.
That's right. We'll add a little song music to that. We're back at the rock wherein the giant sack of bombs has gone off,
Yep.
and we have Val, Earl, and Rhonda are the ones out in the
Yep.
desert ground, whereas everyone
Yep.
else is up on the rock. And they're pausing. They're like stopping, holding still,
Yep.
don't talk,
Yeah.
don't move.
Yeah.
And the beast kind of seemingly gives up, but I think it's Earl is like, it's not
Mm-mm.
falling for it this time.
Yeah. And Val has got the last pipe bomb.
Uh-huh.
And it's very
And
like, do I throw it? What do we do? What do we do?
and they're like, Val, throw the bomb, distract it so we can run back to the rock.
And it's made this idea that like the pipe bombs aren't as much a distraction as like the pipe bombs overwhelm the sandworm's
You're
senses.
right.
So it like sends them skittering off and, it's like too much noise.
Yes.
So they're like, throw the bomb, it'll send it off in the other direction, and then we can run back to the rock.
Yeah.
But no, 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 no.
No,
He just
we have
takes
another
off running.
plan. He
We
just
got it.
takes off running, and they chase after. They start running with him.
Yeah.
I mean, this is how humans are.
Because
You see
Earl's like,
one
where are you
person
going?
running, you're
And
running with them.
Rhonda,
Yeah.
and Rhonda's like, I've got the Zippo, which is literally like a gag that we set up in like the first scene of the movie of I've got the cigarettes, you've got the lighter,
You're
I've got the
right.
cigarettes. This kind of, it's all like a Laurel and Hardy act. And
Yeah.
now their Laurel and Hardy act to become like a Marx Brothers act because now there's three of them.
Uh-huh. They also set up in that opening scene with Val and Earl talking about stampedes. Like it's kind of a jokey
Mhm.
thing. Like, how many cows do you need for a stampede, Earl? Like
Yeah,
and it's funny because like the stampede is when the cattle start running, they all start running in one
yeah.
direction. Um,
And it's like a runaway train. Like there's no stopping it.
yeah.
They don't even know why they're running. They're just all running in the same direction. And well, now again, geology, physics,
Uh-huh.
question mark. They're at the edge of a cliff. They're near the edge of a cliff. And
Uh-huh.
Kevin Bacon starts running to the edge of this cliff. Cliffs are usually made of stone, right?
Yeah, that's how they stay upright.
Not like loose sand
Yeah.
cliffs. Uh, I mean, I'm no expert.
Mm-mm.
I am merely a person with too much time on their hands and a Wi-Fi connection and a microphone. But I was like, cliffs are usually made of rock,
Yeah.
aren't they?
Usually they are.
Usually.
Hopefully, if you're standing atop a cliff,
I know, right?
it has lots of stone to its structure.
Uh-huh.
But
But you
this
know
is
what?
clever. He makes it
Yeah.
to the cliff, he faces it down, takes the bomb, lights it, throws
Yeah.
it, and they're like, "No, you overshot it."
Yeah.
But it causes it to panic and race
And
faster past
run
him.
even faster.
And then at the last second, they all dive out of the way and it goes flying out the edge of the cliff and just it kind of cracks like an egg on the rocks below.
Yeah.
It like splatters like an
It
egg.
what splits at the seams, which is
Yeah.
such a like a satisfying one, the fact that that which has been submerged throughout this entire film, we actually get to see it complete and flying through the air.
Hmm.
So satisfying. It's like watching it's like the end of Duel, watching that fucking truck for 3 minutes explode down the side of,
Yeah, yeah.
like we need this moment of catharsis to be like, not just we killed it, but we, the audience, get to see it fly through the air out of its element and turn into more pulverized into vodka sauce and scrambled
Yeah,
eggs at the
yeah.
bottom.
Vodka
But
sauce
my
and
favorite
scrambled
is
eggs.
like watching, like it's like cuts back up to a shot of the cliff and there's just like a worm-sized hole in the cliff,
Uh-huh.
just perfectly solid, just sure, okay, why not?
Sure. Uh-huh.
It's like the channel.
I like that the idea that the channel you leave London and then you just pop out of the side of a cliff somewhere in
That's
in France.
somewhere in France.
Okay, so then they're all kind of congratulating each other. So the
Hey.
big finale, and he turns to Earl and he's like, I don't know, just sort of hit me, stampede, brings
Oh,
full
yep.
circle. And then our final epilogue, we've got cutesy romantic stuff with Val and Rhonda because like he sees her walking up to say thanks so much and goodbye,
Yep.
and he's like pulling his ex-girlfriend's photos off the
Uh-huh.
the rear view mirror and
And Earl is giving him the like wah, 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 wink, nudge, nudge, get up in there. And he's like, I know, I know, I know.
he's like, what's a girl like her? Because she's a smart girl and I'm just like a country boy. And I'm like, my man, do you look at yourself like she will absolutely? I mean, I don't know if
Yeah.
this relationship is going on to a
I don't know if it has
lifetime of
legs,
marriage,
but yeah.
but I'm sure she's down to hang out like a really solid short term.
Yeah.
Let's just have some fun in the desert.
And she's gonna be back and like, listen, she's gonna become the world's foremost expert on graboids.
Yeah, absolutely. So he walks up back to her and he's like, he starts to say something and then instead he just gives her a big kiss. The
Oh,
end.
literally like the Hollywood ending.
Yes. Yeah.
Pan, camera pans out on
Yeah.
a romantic Hollywood kiss.
Yep. The end. Shall we rate this film?
Yes, let's.
All right. How approachable is this if you are horror film averse? I'm going to say when we talk about on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being like not at all approachable and 10 being super approachable, very easy if you're horror averse. I mean, Tremors is like 8 out of 10 noisy Pepsi machines, right? 8 or 9. Like I'm gonna say 8. I mean, it's gooey, it's gross. The animal death, and there's like one not even graphic, but explicit human death in Walter being grabbed and
Yeah.
flung around or whatever. But ultimately, the whole thing is very cartoonish. If I brought up Cocaine Bear earlier. If you've watched Cocaine Bear and had fun with that, like this is a fraction of the gore that movie has, like a fraction. This is PG, made for TV level of gore violence, even like language. I don't know that, I think they say ass, but I don't remember anyone dropping
Yeah,
an
they
F
drop a few
bomb.
F-bombs, but they
Okay.
also like apparently they really wanted to get that rating. So there's like a lot of mother truckers.
Yeah, Mother Hubbards and
Yeah,
all
yeah.
that. Yeah. So yeah, animal death, minimal, minimal gore. Um, so yeah, 8 out of 10 approachability. In the horror canon, Cecil, how do you rate this film?
I mean, this movie is a really fun one. It's definitely a great day scare movie. I mean, there's like
Mm-hmm.
literally two interior shots in the entire film and only one nighttime shot, mostly. So it's like kind of a fun thing of taking the horror of that which you can't see, which is underneath you. It's Jaws on in the desert.
Yeah.
I think it's a really fun movie. Is it like the greatest horror movie ever made? Maybe not,
Mm-mm.
but it's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And I don't know, it's something that has spawned like 8 sequels. So clearly there is a love of this movie and its movie franchise out there. So for that, I don't know, I'm gonna give it 7 out of 10 noisy Pepsi machines as well.
Great. Well, let's figure out what movie we are going to watch next. You've got a scare die. I've got a style die. We'll roll those up, see what movie matches those two things. So, on your scare die, Cecil, if you roll a 1, our scare is isolation. 2, planes, trains, and automobiles, some type of vehicular scare. 3, vampire. 4, bad mom or bad dad. 5, cult is our scare. 6, end of the world.
That's a 6.
Gonna get that apocalyptic horror.
It's the end of the world as we know it.
It is. Okay, so pause for just a second here as I get this shit loaded up. Okay, so we're gonna take your end of the world and match it to whatever I roll on the style die. If I roll a 1, our style is it has to be a movie made in the Southern Hemisphere. 2, a splatter film. 3, a film that starts with the blank, whatever follows the. 4, cult, meaning has a cult following. 5, a film from the 1970s. Or 6, wild card, whatever end of the world movie we want. Let's see what we got here. I got a 3, the blank, end of the world.
The end of the world.
Okay, so let's think about what movie options we have. Wrote down a few of our own, but we also have a letterboxd account, letterboxd.com/random horror 9. You can check out our lists there, and that's where you can kind of contribute to further ideas for what movies we have. So let's talk about the ones we have on here. I think I put these on this list.
Yeah, I literally these are yeah, there's 4 movies on here. I don't know any of these movies, Jeffrey.
Okay, so the first is The Quiet Earth, which is a early 80s New Zealand film.
Okay.
This is
Ooh, Last Man on Earth, Last Man
yeah,
Alive.
it
Okay,
is
I'm into that.
contemplative existential horror more
Sure.
than violent action horror.
Yeah.
Um so top secret experiment misfires, a scientist may be the only man left alive in the world
Uh-oh.
is where we're at. So
Uh-oh.
there's that. 2 is The Sadness.
Ooh.
This is another movie that I put on here. This is a zombie apocalypse movie.
Okay, cute.
So I think it is
Pandemic outbreak. Yeah.
I think this is a Taiwanese film. It is apparently very violent. It looks really fun. Fun? I don't know about fun. It
Fun.
looks very
Fun.
splattery.
Yeah.
Okay, another one that I put on here is one that I just kind of like found. I don't know much about this movie. This is a
The
1989 movie called The Terror Within.
the cover art for this looks
Uh-huh.
bananas.
This looks like Pumpkinhead level kind of
Yeah.
monster
Yeah.
making, practical effects. 80s experiments in biological warfare have destroyed all but a few remnants of the human race. Blah, blah, blah. People working to do whatever, but then there's some kind of creatures mutated by this
Uh-oh.
situation. And the last one is a fairly popular recent, uh, you know, horror movie, 2020's The Beach House.
Okay.
Have you seen this movie? Do you know this?
No, I've not.
So, romantic getaway for two troubled college sweethearts turns into a struggle for survival when unexpected guests and the surrounding environment exhibit signs of a mysterious infection.
Ooh,
I
so
don't know if
very,
this is end of the world so much as like isolation. I
yeah,
think
yeah,
it
yeah.
might be like, in looking at stuff, I thought maybe it might be a little bit like the movie Annihilation in the sense of like it's
Yeah.
eco horror
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
more so than just you might presume that the end of the world is happening in the future.
Outside of this
Yeah.
cabin. Yeah.
So I don't know entirely from there, but let's see what
Okay.
people have over on Letterboxd. Do you want to go through a couple of these, Cecil?
We've got a few, and we've got some good ones. King and Commodore recommends The Day After Tomorrow, climate change.
Oh,
Yeah.
sure, of
The
course.
World's End, which is sort of a comedic take. Alien invasion threatens to put a damper on the ultimate pub crawl.
Yeah.
From the makers of Shaun of the Dead.
Hmm.
Den Dweller recommends The Gate. I have seen The Gate, Den Dweller, and it's a good one.
I
Two
like their
kids
description. Yeah.
two kids accidentally open a gateway to hell in their backyard. Abso-fucking-lutely. Unsteady Footing recommends The Last Man on Earth. This is a
Oh,
classic.
yeah.
Thank you, Unsteady Footing. Disease turns all of humanity into living dead. The Last Man on Earth becomes a reluctant vampire hunter. This is, it's kind of what I, um, oh God, oh my God, it's gone out of my brain.
Vincent Price.
Vincent
Yeah.
Price. Vincent Price. I mean, this is, classic sci-fi horror
Yeah.
at its best. They also recommend the colony, forced underground with the next ice age. Struggling outposts of survivors must fight to preserve humanity against a threat even more savage than nature. Uh-oh, the terror is
Hmm.
coming from within, and also the terror within.
Yep. Oh, yep. Which we just mentioned that one.
Ganymede's Cup recommends The Cabin in the Woods,
Okay.
which is sort of the horror comedy about horror tropes. And there's definitely a bit of an end of the world, to prevent the end of the world. X, Y, and Z have to go on for those who haven't seen it.
Uh-huh.
As they say, the stakes are world ending. Fifth
Yep.
Hammer recommends The Crazies from 2010. I love this remake. This is like in the world of like horror movie remakes, which are usually pretty terrible. I really like this 2010 remake. Chaos reigns when toxins turn the people of Ogden Marsh into lunatics. This is a remake of a George Romero movie, but
Uh-huh.
it definitely has the like what happens when society breaks down.
Yeah.
Fifth Hammer also recommends The Girl with All the Gifts,
Yep.
which I've
Incredible. Yeah.
seen part of,
Yeah.
but it was like my movie viewing was interrupted and I've never been able to return to it. So, several children immune to a mutated fungal disease has eradicated free will and turned the rest of humanity into cannibalistic zombies. A gifted young girl escapes the safety of a special school and helps guide mankind's survival. There's only
How
one
many
magical child.
how many of the gifts do you think this girl has? Do you think she has some of the gifts?
She's got all the
I
gifts,
was going to say a few of the many of the gifts.
most of the gifts. I like the girl with all the gifts,
Yep. All the girl with all the gifs.
the girl with all the gifs. Okay. Weaponized toasters, second night of the crazies. The Bay. Okay, this is one that's been on the list that I've not seen that looks really interesting.
Oh
Residents of a
yeah.
seaside Maryland community become the unfortunate hosts of mutant waterborne parasites that take control of their minds and their bodies. But it looks interesting. It looks like it's shot in a very documentary style kind of way, which I think, especially, this is 2012, so it predates the worldwide pandemic that we all experienced. But I think it has some interesting ideas to it.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, how did we miss this one? Thank you, Weaponized Toaster. The
The Purge.
Purge.
Yeah,
It's
of
not the end
course.
of the world, but it's definitely a dystopian.
Yeah.
In America, ravaged by crime and overcrowded prisons, the government sanctions an annual 12-hour period in which all criminal activity, including murder, is legal.
Yeah.
This has definitely spawned quite a few sequels and a TV show.
Yeah.
Katie recommends The Return of the Living Dead. This is a classic. This is
Uh-huh.
like you want 80s partying and zombies. This movie has got you covered.
This was where we got the trope of zombies saying
Brains.
brains. Yeah.
Yes. And we've
Yep.
covered, did we cover this one on a Patreon?
No, we still have never done
No,
this
we've
one.
not. No, I think I went on another podcast and talked about this
Uh-huh.
one. A bumbling pair of employees at a medical supply warehouse accidentally release a deadly gas into the air that causes dead bodies to reanimate and go on a rampage, seeking their favorite food, brains. Thank you, Katie, for that one. Squirrel Girl's got a couple. The Day After,
Oh yeah, this
1983.
scared the crap out of every person in
Yeah,
America in 1983.
it's a TV movie. And it scared the crap out of me for
Oh,
life.
yep,
Like
there
this
you
was
go.
very like looking at Cold War politics and
Hmm.
the end of the world in a like realistic way.
Nuclear holocaust sort of
Yeah.
thing. Yeah.
The Road, 2009,
Of course.
definitely dystopian end of the world, based on the Cormac McCarthy novella. Oof. This is a good one, but it is dork. It is
Hmm.
bleak. And The Aftermath, 1982, they say kind of ridiculous and fun. An astronaut battles mutant cannibals after returning from space to find Earth ravaged by nuclear and biological war.
Okay.
It's really running the gamut here.
That's
The end of
great.
the world can be fun. The end of the world can be very serious. Atheros, the guy who didn't like musicals, this sounds interesting.
Huh.
The first installment in Star Kids' Hatchfield trilogy, covering a small town office worker and his friends as they struggle to survive an alien invasion that turns people into show tune singing pod people.
Oh my God.
Sounds very postmodern.
Uh-huh.
And Jared Jekyll recommends this. They second the sadness. Um,
Yes.
they're like super bleak. 28 days later for the new generation, turned up to 1,000.
28 days later turned up to 1,000. Yeah, the
Oh my,
sadness looks so aggressive.
yeah, yeah. Oh, we
I'm
got
just
some.
now
We
looking
got
up the guy who didn't like musicals. I've never heard of this before. Um this looks really funny. Yeah, musical comedy horror is
yeah.
where we're labeling this. This sounds like up there with like Anna and the
And
Apocalypse.
in the apocalypse,
Yeah.
good manners. Yeah, I mean,
Mhm.
as soon as you insert a show tune
Mhm.
into something, you're
Yeah, yeah.
automatically in a postmodern world.
Yeah, yeah. Yep. Okay.
We've got a lot here,
How do we
Jeffrey.
want to narrow this down? Do we want to think about like I think the question we always have to ask ourselves is two questions. One, what fits the brief? This one's a pretty easy one. The blank is pretty set.
Yep,
Like you either are
yep,
or aren't fitting that
yep.
brief. And what qualifies as end of the world?
Sure.
And the other question is, what kind of movie do you want to watch?
Yeah, that's really it. Because I think, it looks like we're kind of on the gamut of the sadness being the sadness, the crazies,
Uh-huh.
the purge being our violent, very, very action horror
Uh-huh.
forward. We've got things that are kind of, I would say, like lawful neutral would be the quiet earth,
Yeah.
the last man on earth, kind of the more like, oh, it's the end of the world, but it's also like the psychological struggle. And then I
Yeah.
think we have kind of the more um sort of realistic pandemic kind of things like the Bay. um oh man, The Day After, The
Mm-hmm.
Road, kind of more
Mm-hmm.
serious.
Yeah.
And then, on the other end, we've got things like the guy who didn't like musicals.
Yeah.
I think The Terror Within sounds maybe a little more um, spoofy.
Yeah. 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 There's a couple of classics on here if we want to keep kind of working at some of the classics of horror. And I would say
Sure.
we've got actually three different eras of classic horror. We've got The Last Man on Earth.
Yeah.
We've got um The Purge,
Yeah.
and we've got The Return of the Living Dead. All three of those very distinctly
Yeah.
different styles of movies, all very distinct classic films. The Purge has spawned so many, it spawned a whole backstory and lore and things like that.
Here's the thing though. I kind of feel like end of the world,
Hmm.
things like The Purge, the Return of the Living Dead, it's the Crazies even. It's not necessarily the end of the world, it's the end of us a world order.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that there are some on here that are like the end of like there's nobody left.
I
You
think
know,
that's a great point. Like the
like do we start
sadness.
at the tipping point or do we start 20 years after the tipping point?
Yeah, because the sadness and the girl with all the gifts are definitely like we're battling zombie
Yeah.
people. But like zombies are end of the world, but like there's a I think the spirit of end of the world is a little bit like how you're dealing with
Yeah.
the aftermath of
Yeah.
society. Like The Quiet Earth is kind of going to be a slow, thoughtful movie, I think, about that. The Last Man on Earth, I know he's a vampire hunter, but it is dealing with what it means to be alone in the world.
Yes. And I think I kind of want to lean into that. So, like, even The Road, which definitely the world looks nothing like what it did before the end of society, but it's
Hmm.
not the end of society, it's the end of the world. And I think there is something to The Quiet Earth, um,
Also,
The Last Man on Earth,
also The Day After Tomorrow.
The Day After Tomorrow. I've not seen that one either.
I haven't either. Um, I'm kind of leaning towards one of those two then. The
Okay.
Last Man on Earth and The Day After Tomorrow. Like both look sort of ridiculous, like in a fun kind of way. Do you see any others? There's The Day After, which is going to be very specifically early 80s Cold War fears.
And The Day After Tomorrow. Wait, is it The Day After Tomorrow?
Yeah, The Day After Tomorrow, I think, is the Roland Emmerich climate change movie. And then
Right.
The Day After is
The day after.
the made for
That's it.
TV movie about nuclear
Ooh.
war impending, blah blah blah, or happening.
I out of those two, I think I would go to I would my vote would be for The Last Man on Earth.
Uh-huh.
Just because we just had a TV, we kind of did a TV movie experience, like a 3 episode kind of TV thing. And it's also Vincent Price. This is like I Am Legend. Like it's I mean very classic sci like this is the kind of sci-fi fantasy horror that my dad would have read and it's
That's
made in
right.
1964. I don't know. I like doing the horror homework.
I do too. I also forget that this is based off of I Am Legend.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is the Richard Matheson short story, and yeah, it's of a very particular era.
And it's
Yeah,
sort of like not just people fighting an end of the world apocalypse, it's like you're it, which I
yeah,
think is a really fascinating idea.
I think so too. We haven't done a ton of 1960s movies, so I think this would be a good one to hit. It is available for streaming, so that makes it a lot easier. Let's do that. Let's do Vincent Price. All right. Thank you all for listening. Thank you, Cecil, for talking with me. And if you have thoughts on Tremors or ideas for what movie you would have picked for the blank, and it's about the end of the world, let us know on Instagram at Random Horror 9 or on our Patreon, where we have public discussion threads for each and every episode, and you do not need to be a paying member to participate. So watch The Last Man on Earth from 1964 with us this week, and come on back next Tuesday for a new episode. Have a restful night with no snake monsters carjacking your station wagon or nothing. Boo.
Ooh.